Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I have another stack of books here to review for you, so let's get started with this video. This is in no particular order of read or rate or anything. I just like things stacked symmetrically, and so I pulled the smallest book off the top. And that one is going to be by Judy Blume, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I've heard many things about this book, especially as it is a great piece of literature to give to your daughters that are, going through changes physically and emotionally and all that. Honestly, I did not finish this book. Maybe in different circumstances it would be worth looking into. However, I quit not even halfway through. Margaret is new to the neighborhood, and within the first chapter, she is meeting a neighbor who takes her over to go swimming and is giving her all kinds of body tips, and there is references to Playboys and the naughty magazines that her brothers read, her father reads, and how they want the boobs and all of that. And at that point I was done. It's like, this is not the book that I need my daughter to read, and I literally have no interest in reading it. For those that are like, yeah, well, this is an issue, I never had that issue growing up. I really didn't think about stuff like that, and it was probably because I was not exposed to stuff like this. I know we're in a different world. Trust me when I say that my daughter has been exposed to things that I was never exposed to, not by my choice, just by walking to the library. She has seen things not within books, but outside in the parking lot that I really didn't want her to see. I would have never seen that or saw that or whatever the correct grammar term is growing up. So trust me when I say, yes, it is a different world, but that doesn't mean I need to partake in that different world. I do not think this is a great book to read. Honestly, as I was reading it, I was like, well, no wonder a lot of us have body image issues. Now, okay, well, I have another children's book, and that one is Shades of Grey by Carolyn Reeder. I think this is in Sunlight or Bookshark's literature selection, and I found a copy, and so I picked it up, and it was really good. I really enjoyed this perspective of a young boy who goes to live on his uncle's farm after he has lost his family and has nowhere else to live. He was in the Confederacy. He has lost brothers within the Confederacy. And then after his mother died of what he called a broken heart, he just wants nothing to do with his uncle or family. His uncle did not fight in the Confederacy, nor did he fight with the Yankees or the Union. And he is very bitter about that. And he thinks his uncle was a coward and just not loyal to their family. However, there is more to the story that meets the eye, and Will kind of learns that making judgments before you know the full story is kind of a dangerous game to play. But not only that, he learns to ask questions rather than assume. And I think that's actually an important lesson for our culture today, that we tend to make judgments before asking to hear the other side. I really did like this book, and I will probably save it on the shelf for my kids to enjoy. At least I hope so. All right, another book that I finished is The Magic of Ordinary Days. This is by Anne Howard Creel. I absolutely adore the movie that Hallmark did with this. It's actually one of my top 5 favorite movies of all times. For those of you that don't know, Magic of Ordinary Days is during World War II, but in America and during the farm setting. So it's not so much blood, guts, and fighting as much as it is the home front view. Libby finds herself pregnant. Her father is a minister, and so he decides to send her to this farm in Colorado to become Ray Singleton's wife and make everything nice and proper and tidied up in a little bow and package. Libby is still grieving over losing her mother to cancer. She has 2 siblings. The movie only has 1. She has 2 siblings that basically kind of abandoned her to take care of her mother, and so through that grieving process, through basically being abandoned. Her father emotionally pulled away and devoted himself to his church work. Libby sought out comfort, unfortunately, and it was not with a good relationship. It was not in a good relationship. However, when she gets married, what did they call that? A marriage of convenience, arranged marriage of a sort, she realizes that the man she is married to is very quiet, very loving, everything she is not. And one line in here says, "I don't know how to deal with gentleness. I only know how to handle anger," because her father was a very angry person, apparently. This followed the story pretty good, even to the story of the Japanese Americans that were, put in these internment camps, and then sent into the fields to help farmers with their crops and everything. And so you also have two other characters, Rose, and in the book it's Lorelai. In the movie it is Florence, but in the book it is Lorelai, Rose and Lorelai, and you also get their perspectives as Japanese Americans. The ending is different in here than it is in the movie, and I tend to actually prefer the movie ending, so kudos to that. Usually the book trumps movie, but in this case, movie trumps book. It was a very enjoyable read. There were two scenes in the book that I really wish they would have put in the movie. It was beautifully done, and I really, really did enjoy that. My husband wants to read it now, especially after sharing some of those tidbits or scenes or snippets or snippets. That's the word. All right, another book I finished was Homestead by Rossini Lippi. Rossini Lippi as Lippi. Lippi. I'll let you figure that out. Okay, this is actually a homestead story taking place in Austria. Yeah, we kind of think of the Western movement, and this actually tells of 3 clans. And unfortunately, I actually found this one. I did read it in one setting. It was pretty thin. Throughout the day, just picking things up and reading them. That time of month makes it more open for me to be reading, if that makes sense. And so I was able to read this within a day. I think it was actually a day and a half. And because of that, I think I could follow it a little bit more than if I done these other books that I kind of read scattered throughout my available time. Because I did read it in one setting, it was easier to keep track of characters and plot lines within their stories. However, if I had to spread it out more, I think it would have been a little bit more difficult to keep track of. It spans just before World War I all the way to 1970, and you have characters that get pregnant without being married, or being married and getting pregnant elsewhere. Adultery, I think is the word. So, unfortunately, it wasn't a main theme of the book, but it was enough so because of how characters started intertwining and coming back to, later on in the story, grandchildren, how decisions mothers made affected grandchildren, and so on. Rossini was interested in the different dialects of the Austria country, and that's kind of how she did her research for this book. Again, it's told through different character perspectives, through different timelines, and that was a little tricky to kind of line up and things like that. It was okay. It wasn't a great read. I think it had the potential to be a good read, but it was kind of choppy, and it just kind of would end. The chapter would end, and you were trying to piece together why certain events happened within other things. And it may just have been the author didn't have enough information to continue, but I think it still was a little bit choppy ending. So it was interesting, but probably not one I would read. I don't even know if it's someone I could recommend. I think some people would find it fascinating, so I'm not going to say I wouldn't recommend it. Even the sex within the book was tactfully done, so you don't get a whole lot of imagery that you did within this book. This is the Alice Network by Kate Quinn. This is my first Kate Quinn book reading. I joined a book club that chose this for the month of June, and I just finished it, and it's a Reese Witherspoon book club choice, and I have loved Reese Witherspoon choices. I really liked Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, as well as Where the Crawdads Sing. However, this one was a fail. I didn't like this one. I think I gave it 2 stars only because I wanted to finish it. I wanted to see how these characters work together. So let me tell you a little bit about the plot line. You have 2 characters here. One is a World War I spy named Eve, and then you have a pregnant, unwed mother just after World War II, whose name is Charlie. And Charlie is trying to find out what happened to her cousin Rose that she grew up together with. Her mother is very controlling, so is her father, and they're basically on their way to have an abortion when Charlie basically kind of skips town, takes Eve and the chauffeur, and they're going to go find out what happened to Rose. Eve joins them, even though she's a bitter, bitter woman with deformed hands and a quick trigger. Yes, she has a gun and she's very quick to use it, but not only does she have a gun, she has a tongue and is also quick to use it. So this book is filled with language, and that it has gotten a little bit frustrating or difficult to read books with language lately. I think I'm just kind of burnt out on it and needing a step back and a cleansing from it. I don't use a lot of language, and I don't like language. Yes, I'm surrounded by it within our world today, but that doesn't mean that I don't need a reprieve from it. So there is language in here, unfortunately. Also, within Charlie, who is pregnant, trying to come to terms with that, or trying to work through that, trying to figure out where she is going to go. With that, you have the chauffeur coming into the picture, and basically how Charlie ended up pregnant, which was sleeping around. So she has no idea who the father is. The chauffeur also has his demons that he is fighting, and what is this story about? Well, it kind of flips perspective. So you have Charlie, who is told in the first person, and how she has gotten to this point, and then Eve tells her story back in the past of World War I, and how she has gotten to this point of trying to find this restaurant owner. This restaurant owner is horrible. He is a profiteer, but he is evil. However, Eve ends up sleeping with the restaurant owner, and it is descriptive. Unfortunately, I did want to find out the ending, and I felt like things were tidied up a little bit too much, but the answers I was looking for were there. But I would not recommend this book, again, because there is a lot of descriptive sex in here that I kind of was trying to flip through. But yeah, not my cup of tea. So this was another book I read, and I'm just gonna pass it along. I have no desire to read anything else by her right now. And with that, I'm probably going to step back from a lot of the contemporary novels, because it seems like the last half a dozen or so have just been books that I'm just not, I need a break from them. We had The Kite Runner. That was really difficult to read. It was good, but it was very difficult to read. Where the Crawdads Sing, again, a good book that I really did enjoy, but again, a lot of difficult themes. The Alice Network, and some of the other books that I shared, Mrs. Houdini and things like that. So I think I need a little reprieve from some of these topics that are going to be discussed within the pages. So it'll be interesting to see what else I have to share with you next time. I hope you enjoyed this review, and leave me a comment down below if you have read anything and your thoughts on them. And until next time, have another cup of coffee and read another chapter. Adios.